important, because here is the truth. That's a moment of truth. You use a shampoo, you look in a mirror, you know if it's worked or not. You buy a car, you sit in it, what does it feel like to drive? What do other people feel like? Are they commenting positively towards my new vehicle? Do I actively advocate that brand? Do I really want to validate that choice? And that really is a true influencing point at that stage, because as you'll see through this journey, consumer ratings, reviews, people, places, work colleagues are actually critical as part of that decision-making process. So the more positive you can get here will actually influence people further up that stage. So what did we do for the consumer research for autos? We partnered with a research agency, OTX. We looked at cars in the economy sector. And first of all, we listened to people. We used social listening, so we were trying to understand what terminology do these customers use? What kind of frame of mind are they in? What do we need to really kind of get under the surface? We then did diaries to sort of actually start to look at people's purchase behaviour. And all of these people had either bought a vehicle in the last 3 months or were in the process of buying over the next 12 months. And they were only talking about the point of purchase that they were at right here, right now. So we're not asking them to remember what they did or forecast what they're going to do. It was very much about the mindset they were in. We then had one-to-one depth interviews with those consumers to start to map out what these different journeys look like. What are their behaviours? Where are their patterns that are actually consistent across those? And then we went into field and did a quantitative study. The data that you're going to see today for Spain is brand new. It was in the field in December. You're the first, or today and yesterday, the first to see the latest wave of European research. And we've got France and Germany coming over the next few weeks. But really fresh off the press. So going through the actual journey, the first thing we really noticed is when you're looking at the automotive sector as a whole, there are 3 key things that really start to shape what that journey looks like, how complicated it is. And that is the level of knowledge people believe they have about the automotive sector. The amount of interest they've actually got in buying cars, and then the confidence that they already have in buying cars. Now, in the US, there's pretty strong across the board, which makes a very clean journey, where there's embedded brands, which kind of become, these are the brands I'm going to look at. I'm now going to just compare those and then go on to buy. In Spain, you'll see that knowledge and interest actually rank the lowest versus the competitors. And even when we put France and Germany, it's still at the lowest. Now, I think some of that's to do with the economy at the moment, insofar as consumer confidence has declined. And despite government incentives to obviously kickstart the automotive market, I think for a lot it is still seen as a bit of a pipe dream and a reality that they can actually purchase a vehicle at the moment. But what we also see is brands and brands experiencing and how much that actually affects their purchase is lower than other markets, which gives an opportunity to really influence. And as we go through this journey, you'll see other measures that Spain are really looking out for in terms of performance, financing, and even technology. And it's those things that are at the forefront rather than the brand on what is going to motivate me to purchase a particular vehicle. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. So this is ranked by Spain. So safety, performance, financing, fuel efficiency are coming up as the top 4 drivers in terms of considering what you would use to buy a vehicle. Brand is at 58%, which compared to, well, the UK is missing, compared to some of the other markets, US is 75%. So a huge swing in less brand loyalty in Spain. It's very much more about the performance within that market And technology is also coming up relatively high versus the competition here. Innovation and technology, 71%. When you're comparing that to other markets there, it's around sort of 50s, 60s. So really kind of that performance financing, technology aspects, cost-saving measures are the things that are tweaking. This is why I'll buy a new vehicle versus perhaps a second-hand vehicle, and help sway consumers' decisions. In terms of emotions and feelings, consistently across this journey, it fits into 3 broad themes. The image that that particular car portrays. So when I'm driving it, what do other people think of me as a person? What's that outward perception? The feeling, the driving experience itself. What does it feel like behind the wheel of this particular car? And then the function is, how fuel efficient is it? What performance has it got? What guarantees have I got in terms of warranty? From a Spanish perspective, function ranks number 1, feeling number 2, and image number 3. And it's only really in that final stage of the journey that the image kind of comes into play when you've already ticked that function box. You've done your test drive and feel comfortable in that vehicle. And then it's kind of a sanity check that actually that design and model really suits me as a person and gives me the outward projection that I want to have. In Brazil, image is number 1, for example. Just show you sort of the differences culturally by market in how these emotions actually play. In terms of motivations for buying a car, the one thing that consumers keep in the back of their minds at all time is finding that vehicle that fits my situation right here, right now. And that's really important as we go through these stages of how lifestyle communication, so that top 10 family vehicles, that best city cars, that fuel efficient car, is having that communication in mind so that the consumers can trigger how that relates to them as an individual. And that really sort of starts right early in the journey. So when we go through the 5 core stages of the journey, we start off in what we call the current state. And we said that's the baggage that you actually take on the journey. So over the years, you've built up a knowledge base about cars. That will come from the cars that your parents owned, the cars that you may have owned in the past. It comes from cars you see in the street, cars you see in adverts, cars that you see in films. So from that, you'll get a repertoire of the types of vehicles out there and the brands out there. For Spain, we really saw so the length of time that people keep cars is a lot longer than the European counterparts. Over 58% of Spanish consumers keep their cars for over 5 years. If you compare that to the US, it's around 20%. So you've got this long period of keeping your cars, maintaining that car, and when you go for this journey, that's also longer than our European counterparts. We'll see that it takes about 6.6 months to complete the journey from actively kind of going into that frame set of buying a new car. That compares to 6.2 months in, 6.2 months in the US and 5.6 in the UK. So you've got a longer time to influence throughout this particular journey. The second part of this journey is what actually triggers you to start this journey. Is there been a life change? Are you thinking of having a family, so you need something with a bigger boot and more than 2 seats? Are you changing jobs where you now need to drive to work, so you want to make sure you've got something reliable, that's up to date in terms of technology, that you've got your sat-nav, your phone or syncs, that you can really kind of optimise your time in that vehicle, getting to work as well as when you're at work? Or is it just purely a strong desire that through advertising you've seen that technology and cars have progressed that much, it's been 6-7 years since your last vehicle, that now's the time to kind of make that change? So this is all about that first trigger. The second stage is that, the third stage is the setting the scene. So this starts to set the boundaries, if you like, for the journey. What do you know about cars? What don't you know about cars? Where will you look and who will you talk to?